There's no climax without foreplay! Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. And today I'm gonna be doing a mini albums reviews, where I reviews a bunch of albums released this year. Yes, I am very, very late. Some of these albums are released like a few weeks ago, so I'm gonna talk about them now. Let's get on with it. Starting off, we have Tropical Fuckstorm with the album Braindrops, and they are an Australian psych rock band who also came out with a pretty solid debut album last year, and now they have returned shortly after a year. And instead of the very groovy psychedelic garage rock that they dabbled into in their last album, on this album they sort of move forward into a very weird, mutinous, dystopian art rock style. Anyway, this album starts off with the track Paradise, which is very dystopian right off the bat. We get these guitars that are kind of creepy, very detuned and sloppy. The vocals, they are very downtrodden and desperate. Gareth did a great job. And then after a while into the song, the instrumentals just explode in a very ugly fashion, but yet we still get these vocal backup vocals in the back that are very sad and dramatic on top, and it's just a very disgusting opener to the album, and in an enjoyable way. We have the second track, The Planet of Straw Men, which is way more accessible as a psych garage rock song. It has a groovy bass, some freaky guitars, some nice drums, and on this track the band basically depicts this political dystopia. And I also really like how noisy and abrasive the tones of the guitars are on this track, as well as the rest of the album. We have the third track, Who's My Eugene, which is completely sung by one of the female members in the band, and it has a pretty simple drum beat, which isn't really all that great, but together with the almost mystical but also very simplistic rudimentary vocal melodies and the awkwardly inorganic drum beats, it just has this really weird herky-jerky, kind of sloppy, awkward feel to it, which I actually kind of enjoy. We also have another track titled The Happiest Guy Around, and it's very noisy, but also kind of enjoyable. It's also a little obnoxious and intoxicated in a good way, and the song is about not being able to live in peace, and it also is pretty messed up instrumentally. Afterwards, we have the track Maria 62, and at the end of the album, we have Maria 63. Both of the tracks are also kind of inspired by these really crazy, wild, messed up conspiracy theories, and two of these tracks are also really moody, spacey, sort of mellow ballads that are very depressing. The latter is extra depressing, very sinister as well. It's a song about saying goodbye, and again in a very ugly fashion. And then we have the latter of the two. And Maria 63 is way more dramatic and way more cinematic. The ending of the track is incredibly heavy and distorted and in an enjoyable way. And while I'm not a huge fan of Maria 62 because it's a little drawn out, it's not that eventful, the album ending, even though it's very long-winded, it's certainly better. I also damn it, where was I? We also have the title track, which is actually kind of catchy and accessible. We get these angular guitars, these rough bass riffs that I actually really like, even though the song isn't as explosive or as ugly, more calculated than other tracks on the album. We have the track Aspirin. We also have the track Aspirin. And then we have the track Aspirin, and even though the lyrics are dark and cynical and messed up, the instrumentals are actually really bland and rigid and tedious. Just not one of the better tracks off of the album. And we also have the penultimate. We have the penultimate track, which is an instrumental track similar to their previous album. It also has a instrumental track, and we also have one on this album called The Desert Sand of Venus, and it's incredibly dystopian as well, and the guitars are extra twisted and evil. And I actually prefer this instrumental track over the last one because this one fits into the overall theme and tone of the album way better. But yeah, even though this album is kind of hard to digest, kind of hard to get into, it's still a very impressively gross, nasty, rotten album. And I'm feeling an 8 out of 10. Yeah, my favorite track here? I don't know. Probably The Planet of Straw Men, and my least favorite is Aspirin. Moving on, we have the second album, The Highwomen, consisting of Brandi Carlile, Amanda Shires, Maren Morris, and Natalie Hemby. And they are a quad, a country female quad. And this album is incredibly solid. You know, I don't listen to country music all that much, but I can tell this is a really solid album because I enjoyed a majority of the tracks on the album. The title track is friggin' amazing, and it's also the album opener, and it's actually very soulful, very faithful, and very, very powerful, because basically every single member plus the guest feature tells a story of a woman in the past who was trying to change the world and change the situation, who's trying to break the mold, but ended up dying, passing away, and it's very tragic, but also very powerful. And it's about how these important women tried to break the tradition and change the society, and they are really heroic on this track, also really tragic, and a really powerful opener indeed. The second track, Redesigning Woman, is a way more lighthearted and nice track. The vocal harmonies here are very pleasant and very twangy, indeed, very tuneful. What's this word? Relaxing. This song is very relaxing. And instead of talking about how these women tried to change the society, this song is more about how these women are the foundation of society. And afterwards, we have two tracks that aren't really clicking at me all that much. We have Loose Change and Crowded Table. The instrumentals on both of these tracks are kind of bland. The former has some pretty so-so vocals, and lyrically it's okay, it's pretty good, it's decent. It's about how you feel valueless to someone you love and how you should move on to a better romantic partner. And then the latter is probably the least enjoyable track on the album for me, because it has these drums and thumpy bass that are just so messy. I was about to say messed up. Messy, and the instrumentals are very washed out. The vocals are very repetitious, and it has this gospel tinge to it, which actually turns out kind of awkward with the washed out instrumentals. Anyway, the next track, My Name Can't Be Mama, has a very classic country tone that sounds like a country folk song in the 50s or the 60s, and it is a pretty funny song about motherhood, whether being a mother to your children or being a mother to you, your mom. The next track, If She Ever Leaves Me, is a love song that's actually really beautiful and gorgeous with its swaying gospel pianos, and it's also a not just a regular love song about heterosexual partners. It's actually a love song about lesbians, and in a very lovely and positive light, and I actually kind of appreciate it for what it is, because you don't hear country music about homosexuality all that often, and and to hear that, and you know how country music usually comes from, you know, southern USA, and in southern USA homosexuality is a little forbidden there apparently. And so this song is actually pretty fantastic in just reinforcing the idea of freedom of sexual orientations. Afterwards, we have the track Old Soul, which is also not one of the better tracks on the album. It's very long, it drags on, and it doesn't have much dynamic, even though still instrumentally it's pretty pleasant indeed. Next page, Don't Call Me is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's funny, freaky, wild, and frenzied. The guitars are rustic, the chorus is catchy, and it's about dumping your ex. Don't call me. And the spoken word at the end is very funny, very nice, and I just love the song. We also have the track My Only Child, which is, in contrast, a very mellow ballad, but it's very emotionally potent, and it actually keeps your attention instead of boring you out. We have Heaven is a Honky Tonk, and it's actually a really good song as well. Pretty lighthearted, even though it's slow, and it's basically this very pleasant country tune that's not necessarily crazy or experimental or anything. Pretty meat and potatoes, pretty solid. The penultimate track here, Cocktail and a Song, is kind of spacey, kind of stripped back, kind of a simple ballad, not that attractive. The strings are meh, but the album ending, Wheels of Laredo, is a very powerful closer to the album, and it really just ends off on a high note that is very dramatic, that is very moving, very dramatic, and it's, again, very tear-jerking, like the album opener itself. So, yeah, it's a very solid country album. I love a majority of the tracks. I'm loving the idea of some of these songs. Some of the song ideas, some of the lyrical song ideas. Yeah. Feeling an 8 out of 10 on the album. Favorite track here. Honestly, I love the title track. It's not really title track because it doesn't have it's just Highwomen. I'll say Redesigning Women. And my least favorite is Crowded Table. Yeah. Moving on, we have Alex Cameron with Miami Theater. The third album I'm going to be talking about is Alex Cameron's Miami Memory. So Alex Cameron is an Australian pop singer, songwriter, and his last album, released in the year 2017, Force Witness, is actually really funny, really catchy, and it portrays this really sleazy character that's actually really funny. On this album, he sort of sings as himself again, and it's still not that bad, even though I don't like this album as much as I like Force Witness. This album starts off with the track Stepdad, which isn't really a great album opener, to be honest, even though lyrically it's funny AF. It's about celebrating becoming a stepdad. And again, the lyrics are hilarious. Alex Cameron talks about how he met his girlfriend, I guess. He saw her on a TV show, and then he packed his bags already. And even though instrumentally it's not that great, the synths are constantly blaring, blasting, and they're kind of not rough, but rigid, not all that dynamic. The hook is pretty nice, but still, instrumentally, the song needs a little more. We have the title track, which has this weird looped cyclic percussion, which is kind of weird, not as organic or as folky as some of his previous stuffs on his previous album. But melody-wise, it's okay. Lyrically, it's kind of crazy. It's about holding a hand of a lover, not letting her go that easily. At the same time, eating her as like oyster and some other crazy sex stuffs. And in fact, this album is very, very sex tinged. And it just makes me sad. We have the third track, Far From Being Born Again. She's doing porn again. and it's a really romantic and sort of a humane song about sex workers and porn actors and actresses. And I actually really like how this song portrays it in a very mature way. It's actually pretty cool. And instrumentally, it's fantastic. It's playful, swanky, glitzy, and yeah, again, this album talks about sex a lot for some reason. And I'm from Hong Kong, and in Asian countries in general, sex is a pretty taboo topic. So when I'm listening to the album, to me it sounds pretty crazy. Not super crazy, but like to some extent, kind of crazy, kind of sex tinged. Again, I'll use that word because it sounds dumb, but still, I like the song idea. Afterwards, we have the track Gaslight, and pretty self explanatory. It's a song about gaslighting in a relationship, and it's probably my favorite song here because the chorus is really friggin' catchy. It runs like water, super smooth. Instrumentally, it's very jangly, rustic, poppy, but also organic and lovely and pleasant, and overall, a great track. We also have the track Back for the Boys, and lyrically, it's kind of satirical. It's about these dated concepts of masculinity in this world. And it's about how men nowadays and women alike should exist without a filter. Instrumentally, it's a really comfortable piano song, and it's very pleasant as well. We also have the track End Is Nigh, which is a pretty okay, catchy song, not all that great. Lyrically, it's about how Alex felt like it's the end of the world, felt like it's over, life is over now, and while given how pleasant and smooth the instrumentals are, his emotions aren't really conveyed all that well on this track, but still, I enjoy it quite a bit. We have the track PC With Me, also commenting on the political correctness culture, and the song is about how even though you are in a romantic relationship with someone, you and that someone don't have to be in this, don't have to have the same political stances all the time. At least that's how I speculate the lyrics to be about. And again, liking the song idea here. The instrumentals are also pretty nice. It's a pretty vintage piano rock tune. I like the horns, the backup vocals, the regal chords, and the chorus. Again, it's very sex tinged. Like, what the fuck? Like, sodomy in Berlin, blowjob in Prague, cunnilingus in Paris, anal sex in Vienna, which is the same thing with sodomy, 120 days. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, the next track is Divorce, 120 days. The next track is Divorce. You know, you're gonna get my reference if you watch a lot of movies. The next track is Divorce, and again, it has these really forced looped cyclic percussions, which I'm not a huge fan of. However, it's still a pretty pleasant tune. It grew on me a lot. It's a little 80s inspired, which I like. Very straightforward song, and the lyrics are the best part about the song because it's about, you know, divorcing. It's very dramatic, very fiery, very funny, and I like it. We have the track Other Ladies, which is this Dylan-inspired ballad, and it's actually very bland. But the album ending Too Far, while instrumentally it's not very organic or poppy, it's a little more spaced out. It's still a really nice ballad and a very nice ending to the album. The closing monologue is also a pretty nice touch. So yeah, while this album is very sex tinged, it's still very funny, has a lot of personality. I'm liking the tunes here, and feeling a 7 to an 8 out of 10 as well. Favorite track here, Gaslight, and my least favorite, Other Ladies. Moving over to the fourth album, Hobo Johnson. The Fall of Hobo Johnson. So Sacramento-based singer, rapper, guy, dude, man, Hobo Johnson. Album, lyrics, yay. So he's a really special artist because he's a very unique singer and rapper. He fuses genres of pop, rock, spoken word, rap together into something lighthearted, kind of comedic, maybe a little cringy, a little corny, a little cheesy, but also a little emo, and very zoomer. Not that instrumentally his song sounds zoomer, but like lyrically his songs are pretty zoomer. And even though I'm not a huge fan of the style and the tone of this album, I find most of the lyrics on this album very relatable because it's basically about feeling lonely, being sexless, and yeah, relatable. The album opener, typical story, total friggin' banger, awesome, wild guitars going up and down. It's a really fun, playful alt-rock rap fusion, very unhinged, very enraged, also very uplifting as well. It's like something that Beck would make when he's in his prime time. It sounds like E-Pro, but crazier, way crazier. And again, I love the performances. The next track, Mover Awayer, is sort of this Ryan Lewis-esque track, which I'm not too crazy about at first because the pianos, they do sound a little cheap and a little gentle in a corny way, just a tad bit. But again, it grew on me a lot. The chorus is actually really fun, very playful. We have the shouts, we have the whispers, the sub bass is really bouncy, and instrumentally it's also really pleasant. We have the track Uglykid, which has a similar instrumental style with the previous track here, except a little jazzier and a little low-keyer. And in a very sad, fried voice, Hobo talks about how he's ugly. And this track is also surprisingly relatable. Lyrically, anyway, the instrumentals are also very pleasant, which is really strange because lyrically it's actually kind of sad, but instrumentally very pleasant, kind of uplifting. The next track is You and the Cockroach, and it's a straight up spoken word song with this very simple keyboard in the back, kind of lengthy for an interlude, to be honest. And basically, Hobo Johnson describes evolution in a very brief way, tries to be comedic, and it's not really clicking to me. It's not really clicking for me. So even though the song ends off on a very funny note with some crazy narratives, I still don't enjoy the track all that much. But the next track, Subaru Crosstrek 15, is one of my favorites on the album because it's actually really catchy. Even though it's a trap rap song, but it is Hobo Johnson styled trap rap song. It has a certain gentleness to it and a certain comedy to it, which I really like. And also we get some nice keyboards in the back. And on this song, he actually mocks himself for buying a Subaru because he can't afford a Lambo. Afterwards, you have the track Moonlight, not one of my favorites as well. We get some sleazy saxophones and some really spaced out keyboards, I guess, and the whole thing feels a little messy, a little jumbled up. It feels a little bland as well, and it doesn't have a solid song idea. The next track, Happiness, has a pretty solid song idea about how Hobo basically shat on someone's dreams, and now that someone's gonna achieve that dream and he feels bad about it. But instrumentally, it's kind of bland. It has these very, very, very spacey pianos, and it's kind of mundane. Could have been catchier. Could have been more interesting instrumentally. We have the next track, All in My Head, which almost suffers from the same problem instrumentally in that it feels a little bland, even though it has a really nice glossy, smooth vibe to it, which is really nice. The next track, Ode to Justin Bieber, is also one of my favorites on the album. And of course, it's about Justin Bieber, and lyrically, it's actually really clever, really funny, extremely funny, in fact. And instrumentally, it has this really fun, bouncy dance beat, and occasionally transitioning into this really weird, ear-piercing instrumental. It's very fun, danceable, dumb, but in an uplifting way, I guess. The ending is kind of somber too, which makes the track even funnier, actually. And then afterwards we have February 15th and Sorry My Dear, two lonely, emo-ish tracks, where on the former, he basically screams and yells about feeling alone, hating himself in front of a crowd in a very organic and rough way, which I like the sentiment and what Hobo Johnson is trying to go for on this track, and again, I feel relatable. I mean, yeah, I'm only 17 years old, but come on. It's not like all that enjoyable of a track anyway. Same goes for the next track, which is like a Kanye-esque auto-tune freakout, and it's kind of weird. Yeah. However, the ending of the album is very emotionally potent, kind of powerful, kind of hopeful. The instrumentals are very grand, and Hobo Johnson talks about wanting a dog, because the track is called I Want a Dog. And he also talks about how he wants his dog to talk, how he wants his family to come back to him and cure diseases, and it all sums up to his great sense of loneliness at the end, which is sad, but in this song, it's like making the sadness sadder by making the happiness happier, which is a really nice touch. So yeah, while I'm not a huge fan of a few tracks on the album here and there, I still like some of the song ideas, and a lot of the tracks here are pleasant to the ears. I am feeling a strong 7 on this album, a decent to strong 7. My favorite track here, Typical Story, and my least favorite is Moonlight. Okay, fifth album, I'm going to be talking about the latest Sandy Alex G album, House of Zucker. So, Sandy Alex G, lo-fi folk musician, have been dropping some records for a while already. He's back, and even though I had high hopes for this album because the teaser singles are friggin' fantastic, this album still manages to underwhelm me, unfortunately. Again, the teaser singles, they are friggin' fantastic. This album starts off with Walk Away, which is a so-so album opener, to be honest. The instrumentals are very drony, but also kind of lo-fi at the same time, kind of scrambled up, not very solid indeed. It's like the same song, it's like a half-baked song demo played forward and backward at the same time, and it just sounds kind of messy. However, the next track, Hope, is freaking fantastic. It's a solid, sweet ballad that's very catchy, very compelling, and very engaging. The melodies are nostalgic, they are gorgeous, and yet, even though it's a pretty straightforward, simple folk ballad, it has a very depressing and sort of worn down undertone of the track, and I just really love it. We also have the track Southern Sky, which is an amazing track indeed. We get these odd piano leads, which actually pairs with the pleasant guitars really well. The verses are okay, but the hook is very dreamy, with the guest vocals, I guess, and the strings are pretty fantastic as well. And we also have the track Gretel, which is one of my favorite songs of the year so far. The layers, the very dense, thick layers of guitars and instrumentals on this track is friggin' mind melting. It's dissonant, it's haunting, yet it's very gorgeous, and it feels like it's slowly melting off a wall, slowly descending in a very beautiful way. The chords are a little grunge tinged, and we also get these Asian woodwinds, which actually goes together with the guitars really well. The hook is incredibly sweet, and I love the song a lot. I listened to the song this morning again on my way to school, and damn, I don't wanna go back. Nobody's gonna push me off track. Afterwards, we have the track Taking. Which is where the album starts to trail off. While I like the bright lead melodies on the instrumental bridge of the track, and I like the refrains throughout the whole track, this track still feels kind of static, kind of stagnant. It doesn't have much dynamic. We have the track Near, which is just annoying, very repetitious, kind of messy. The bass is gargly, the guitars are very messy, and we have this like the refrains throughout the whole track. I want to be near you, you. It's so annoying. Why this is such a questionable production choice. Anyway, we have Project 2, which is not good. Sandy Alex G basically tries his... Wow, a bubble just came out of my mouth. Alex G basically... Fuck, that was magical. Alex G basically tried his hands on some vaporwave synths and tried to make an ambient track out of it, and it's just not good. It's very bland. We have the track Bad Man, which is actually one of the better tracks on the album as well. It's this mix between country and folk indie-tronica, and it's actually kind of sweet, kind of catchy. The instrumental passages are pretty pleasant as well. And then the rest of the album is not that great. We have the track Sugar, which instrumentally it's fantastic. I mean, we get these very thick, regal, dramatic guitars. And then we have the vocals, which are very compressed, very robotic, very squeaky and warbly and choked up. It's like one of the questionable production choices on the album. We have the track In My Arms, which has these slow, drony guitars that are syrupy and kind of rough as well. But still, the track is mundane, insipid. Also, mundane and insipid would be the next track, Cow, which has some nice twangy country guitars, but that's pretty much the extent of it. The penultimate track, Crime, has some nice country-ish chords, but it's still not that great, given how so-so it is, middlebrow. And the ending track is a live track, and while it's weird that the ending of the album is a live track, the recording is not that great. The instrumentals are actually pretty pleasant. The key and the bass are pretty groovy. The saxophones are pretty nice as well, and it's a pretty relaxing ending. But still, there are a lot of flaws in this album, even though there are also equally a lot of great moments on the album as well. So I guess I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on the album. My favorite track here, Gretel. Least favorite, Near. Alright, 2 shitty albums. Let's go. Starting off with the latest Blink182 album, 9. So California pop punk band Blink182, they're back, and this is the album that you would exactly expect from Blink182, who's still making these very corny, cheesy, very cheap pop punk music that feels very formulaic. The vocals, they feel robotic. They feel overly clean and sterile. The production is very glossy, and it just doesn't have the energy and the oomph that the band has before. And given how this is a pop punk album, it just sounds kind of cringy and cheesy without the required angsty energy. So I don't want to go through all the tracks, but I guess I'm gonna do it anyways. The album opener, the first time, yeah, you know what? Listening to the track the first time may as well be the last time I listen to the track as well, because it really sucks. The next track, Happy Days, has some profound lyrics indeed. I want to feel happy days, happy days, happy days, happy days, walls of isolation inside my pain. It doesn't even make sense. And the vocals are so sterile, it sounds like it's being sung by an AI. We have the track Dark Side, and it's about creeping up on a goth girlfriend, you know, being obsessed over a goth girl, and being like, I'm gonna go to the dark side with you because I love you, and you're goth, so you're dark. Am I right? Goths are all dark people, right? Come on. I mean, it's about to be the 2020s, and if you still have that misconception about goths being evil and dark and cynical, then you're really not cultured. Yeah. Anyway, we have tracks like a Generation Divide, which is basically 49 seconds of nonsense. It's 49 seconds long. How am I going to take this track seriously? And it's not like a very good track anyway. I mean, some bands can pull off something great within 49 seconds. And blink182 is not one of them. We have the track Heaven. Enough said. We have the track I Really Wish I Hated You. I really wish I hated you. And it's childish. We have Blame It on My Youth. And it's like a song for Zoomers, you know. Blink182 are basically the boomers now, and they're telling the Zoomers, this is a song for you guys, the Zoomers, with the skittery drums, the shouty verses. Then we have the song, Run Away, and it's, oh fuck, it's garbage. It's honestly garbage. I mean, with all due respect, I respect Blink182, okay, but like, come on. Come on, really? We get these dramatic pianos, these really dramatic rapping and singing. It's basically a Linkin Park ripoff, and this is what Linkin Park sounds like to Linkin Park haters. It's really bad. The very loud chorus completely contrasts with the quiet verses, the quiet subdued verses, and the transition between the verses and the chorus is so jarring. It's nonsense. It's so blown out. It's the production. We have the track Black Rain with its aggressive drums, and its very generic, bland verses and melodies, and it's almost a little Baroness-esque, and in a very bland way. It's like what Baroness sounds like to Baroness haters. We have the track Pin the Grenade, which is a song that is emo. It's an emo song, and it's so one-dimensional and generic of an emo pop rock song. A few tracks later, we actually have a song called On Some Emo Shit. Yeah, the song is called On Some Emo Shit, and it is surprisingly boring, more like On Some Boring Shit. We have the track Hungover You, which is I guess is a wordplay, you know, hungover, like waking up like not feeling good after consuming some alcohol, I guess, and hung over you, like, you know, being obsessed with this person. The beat is weird. The vocal melodies just blast in all direction in a very dumb way. It's actually laughably bad. We have a No Heart to Speak Of, more like no songs that I like on this album. We have Remember to Forget Me, which is a very boring ending to the album. It tries to be touchy-feely, but it really just fails and falls flat. And we have the track Ransom, with its very rainbow vomit vocal harmonies, and a blast chorus, which, you know what? Just fuck it. I don't like this album. I'm giving this album a strong 2 out of 10. Strong 2 to a light 3. And, yeah, there are a lot of bad albums this year. I'm honestly shocked. Favorite track? I don't know. Least favorite? Runaway. Wow, that was loud. To end off the video, we have, it's not even an album. I mean, it is an album. It's available in Spotify, but it really isn't a fucking album. I'm just gonna, even if it is an album, I'm gonna just close my eyes and pretend that it is not an album. Nostalgia Critic, aka Doug, a movie critic, decided to criticize Pink Floyd's The Wall, finally, in the year 2019, with the help of Rob Scallon. And Rob Scallon actually did a pretty great job doing faithful covers of Pink Floyd's guitars and drums, but everything else about the album just sucks. It is a parody album of Pink Floyd's The Wall, and not even the whole album. I mean, Pink Floyd's The Wall is literally one of my favorite albums of all time. Tracks like Another Brick in the Wall, Hey You, Mother, Comfortably Numb, and The Trial are some of my favorites. Also, that running song, like that Keep On Running song, that song's fire. Run Like Hell. That's the name of the song. Run Like Hell. I love that song. But Doug basically totally ruined the song here. I mean, I'm not saying that Doug is a terrible movie critic. Some of his movie reviews are hilarious, especially for the M. Night Shyamalan reviews, but like the points he makes on this parody album are really shallow. It just goes to show that he doesn't really get the point of the album, and it's almost like when he was 5 years old, someone with a Pink Floyd shirt beat him up for no reason, and now he has this unreasonable grudge for Pink Floyd. Anyway, I'm not gonna go through all the tracks, because I don't want to. It's a terrible album. The album starts off with In the Floyd, instead of In the Flesh, get it? Because it's Pink Floyd, so in the Floyd. And it's bad. It sounds thin and cheap, and the singing is terrible. The singing is terrible throughout the whole thing. We have a parody of the Happiest Days of Our Lives, which is a track in between Another Brick in the Wall Part 1 and 2, which is a track that I really, really love. It sort of acts like a breather in between parts 1 and 2, and it has these really urgent guitars underneath, which sounds angsty, angry, and on top we get some sound effects that are very dramatic, cinematic, goes left and right channel. It's amazing, and Doug totally misses the points, because his parody of the track is literally exactly the reason why he doesn't love the track in the first place, and that he thinks the track is an aimless filler track. And indeed, this track that he made is an aimless filler track, because nothing ever happens on this track. He also makes a parody of Hey You, more like Fuck You. We also have Comfortably Dumb instead of Comfortably Numb. And as the title suggests, it's really dumb. And Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd is very powerful. David Gilmour's guitar solo is quite literally one of my favorite guitar solos of all time. And he ruins it with the very terrible vocals, and the guitar solo is just not as good. And we have the track The Trial, which I specifically wanted to listen to because I know that the track The Trial is not a track for everyone. It is a musical, a play sort of track. I actually really, really, really love The Trial when I heard The Wall by Pink Floyd, because it's such an oddball, but it's so much fun. I just love to memorize all the lyrics and pretend to be the judge, the lawyer, the teachers. They are all very cynical and evil, and it's just very funny but also very dramatic, and I just love it. And again, Doug totally misses the points and thinks that this track is dumb. So and for some fucking reason, this album ends off with the SpongeBob theme song, and I don't want to know why. So yeah, I'm not even gonna give this album a score, because giving this album a score only legitimizes this album, and I'm not gonna do that. No, I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, that's the video. I know I stuttered a lot in this video because I am very sleepy right now. I didn't sleep much. And yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna do a review on that Richard Dawson album, which is friggin' fantastic. So goodbye. Have you listened to these albums from 1 to 10? How much did you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching. It's 9 p.m. and I have to go eat dinner. I am hungry as hell. Bye.